You're listening to the Middlemen podcast, this week with Tom Limongello and Todd Sawicki.
Hey Todd, how's it going?
It's going well. It's another week and another recording.
It was a big week for me. I was out at eMarketer's Ad Buyer Strategy Summit. We've got a lot of events coming up. I think what's interesting now is we're starting to hit some retailers that we wanted to have on the podcast for a while. Today we're going to be talking to Britt Polihronis from Hy-Vee, and their retail media network's called RedMedia. They're one that has a really interesting setup. They are strategically placed in the northern Midwest, and we'll see from Britt sort of the states that they cover, but they're based in Des Moines, Iowa. And the big question when I first visited out in, I think it was 2019, we were pitching them, and I was like, Quotient. The big question is like, how did they get people to work in Des Moines? And they actually had this really cool HQ that they set up. They made it look like New York City, and they're trying to attract like agency type talent. And now when we have this discussion, it seems like they are walking the walk, talking the talk. They have a huge screen network. They are really starting to look like somebody who knows how to do media.
I think not just starting, they do, right? I think that's sort of the point is it's not a story where you see where they're going. It's where they're at today, which is, given my background, right, having been a CRO at a large publisher, online publisher back in the day, the pitch that Britt talks about could be any pitch you'd hear from any large, meaningful publisher. And a large regional chain is the equivalent of a large publisher. Like they're decent sized. And, she talks about if you want to reach that regional audience, she's one of the best ways to do it. And that'd be the same pitch if you were a regional newspaper chain in that same area. And I think we've been talking about waiting for retailers to look and sound like publishers. And again, I say that positively, like that publishers have done a great job selling online media for a number of years now. And when you hear the pitch from Britt, and now she comes from an agency background, so she knows what it takes to sell media from the buy side. Now she's switched sides. But when she talks about it, it's the pitch you'd expect out of any sophisticated publisher. And you can see why they're being successful in how they're doing it, because they look and sound like a well-oiled publishing machine, which is what we assumed retailers needed to be. And so that's really cool to kind of see, which is, yes, we are seeing that sophistication start to emerge on the retailer side. And we expect it'll pay off in its growth. And from the buy side, you're going to be working with retailers who know what they're doing now in a meaningful way. And then on top of it, again, going back to our conversations with Sarah Marzano, speaking of eMarketer, and her talk about the frustration about in stores like chicken and the egg, and no one can do anything meaningful. And then you have Hy-Vee, who's gone all in on in-store and has hundreds of stores with thousands of screens. It's real. And they're doing a great job of building an in-store component to their RMN. And again, not in a POC way, but in an all-in, like this is a standard offering from them. And that's really cool to see people do that and be a real practitioner. So you're seeing sophistication really emerge. And I think that's what's going to come out in our chat with Britt.
Welcome to the Middlemen podcast. I have learned that I have too good a microphone, so now if you're watching video, I have headphones on. I feel very pro. And we are here with Britt from Hy-Vee. Britt, say hello and tell us your background a little bit.
Hi, everybody. I'm Britt Polihronis. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for RedMedia, which is Hy-Vee's retail media network organization. So I've been with Hy-Vee for the last 2.5 years now. Excited to be here. I came to Hy-Vee. I was previously with Dentsu Merkle, part of the Newsstream media team. So that's kind of when I officially joined a retail media network group, really got to dive in, work on many different retailers across the board. And prior to that, I worked for a shopper marketing agency for the better half of 10 years. So have a lot of different backgrounds as I've worked into the role at Hy-Vee. I'm really excited now to officially work on the retail media network and run that business. So it's been a really exciting 2 years here at RedMedia.
How did to jump in terms of, you talk about Hy-Vee and building out the retail media network, what was the background to launching one, thinking about it? Was it inevitable? It's always interesting to understand the origin stories of how did Hy-Vee come to the idea, like, yeah, we have to do this too.
Yeah, so this was something that happened prior to me joining the team, but how great origin stories begin is really there was an opportunity. Hy-Vee really started diving in early on into retail media. They partnered with Citrus Ads right away. Like they were one of their first clients when they moved from Australia to the States. So that was something they started right away. It was kind of on the side desk of many of the merchandising teams, different groups and organizations across the retailer. And then it was probably 3 years ago, they set it up as its own unique offering. And that's when we really started the boom. That's when we launched our capabilities and our process. And then I was lucky enough that I was on the agency side and they brought Merkle in to help support building it. And I always say it's my greatest compliment that a brand or a retailer would want to bring you on board. So they were my client that then led into this opportunity for myself. So I got to see the inner workings on the agency side, and then I just pivoted over. But I think Hy-Vee sits in a very amazing spot. I say this all the time. We are the gateway to the Midwest. If you want to have a national presence, you have to partner with Hy-Vee because we own that middle section of the country. And that's something that's really important, the ability to target those kinds of consumers. They have a lot of buying power and they really are loyal shoppers. And that is something that benefits brands as well as Hy-Vee.
It's an interesting comment you just made about how you sell and position the Hy-Vee RMN, right? If you want to do national, we have markets that we're basically the player, right? Is sort of your pitch. Because that was one of the things as I was talking with Tom. How do you position Hy-Vee in where scale matters in online advertising? How does that story play out? Is it a challenge? Like you saw, right, the beginnings of Ripple trying to build a coalition of different regional players. Does that pitch work? Do you find that's the compelling pitch? Do you find that you get pushback in terms of scale and size? What's sort of the dynamic of being a regional player versus some of the national players that are out there?
I think Hy-Vee, we try hard to hit above our weight. That's something that we've always like kind of clung to as like a point of differentiation. Even though we are regional, our ability to offer product and ads that are different, like our collection, our channels are massive. We do everything from on-site to off-site, but then our in-store is really powerful to a lot of brands. No, we're never going to have like the entire country. We're specialized in one area, but I think what we do is we take advantage of the fact that we know our shoppers really well. We have data that supports that, and we bring them solutions every day. So I think our ability to really take that is our differentiation in the industry, is that we are so focused. We have really good partnerships across the board that help us scale. And yeah, we are part of a multitude of different consortiums. We want to hit that, whether it was Ripple or, even being part of Grocery TV, and what they're able to bring to the table. We just continuously want that opportunity so that, again, we can meet our brands where they want us to be, but also meet our shoppers where they are too.
So I think it would be good for the audience to understand Hy-Vee a little bit better. So I had a lot of fun. I don't know, it's like 2019 or 20. I got to see you had this, your headquarters was sort of built up to look like New York City, and you had, all this great stuff. And you're a big store. You have lots of screens because of the Grocery TV Network partnership, but it's a very large store. It's almost warehouse size, even though it's mostly grocery and drug, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about the store and how it all works?
Hy-Vee, for those not familiar, we are within the Midwest. We have about 332 stores across 9 states. So that's Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, South Dakota. We're now in Indiana with our partnership with Strax. So we are kind of that group. Every store is a little bit different. We have probably, Tom, what you went into was more of our flagship stores, our newer ones, perhaps maybe in Grimes, where you kind of see that atmosphere. We have other stores that are smaller, that are more neighborhood chains. So it kind of depends on the Hy-Vee you go into. But what we really focus on is fresh. So fresh is really important to us, making sure we have the best and fresh is what we like to call it. And then, yes, we do have the Market Grill. It was inspired by Italy in Vegas. And it was something that was really important to bring, again, to our shoppers and make sure that they want that. But our reputation is really around customer service. And then, yes, we have health and wellness is a huge focus of ours. We have a pharmacy in a majority of our stores. And that's really important to this community because in some of the regions, we are the only pharmacy chain within 100 miles radius. So it's really important that we give that to our shoppers and something that we find really unique about our positioning as well. And then we have a huge health market focus. We believe food is medicine and it's helping consumers, and that's our number one goal. So you can see all of these different unique retail environments every day. So it's something that we pride ourselves in, but it is a large store with lots of options, and that's...
Well, yeah, what's interesting to me is that if you look at the rest of, say, the club channel, which you're not a club, but you have stores that are that size, I think, they haven't really done a lot with screens. And so the fact that you went in and you have 10,000 plus screens with Grocery TV.
10,000 screens? Holy crap.
Yeah. So, like, how did you get there? How did you sell that into the organization? And what are the benefits of having those screens?
So we went big with in-store. We really saw that as being our key differentiation within the marketplaces. And I mean, that started over 3 years ago. I feel like now more and more retailers are coming on board with the screens. The technology is changing, the ability to really focus on the consumer changes. We can target them. We can, place different content on the screen with our GTV relationship. It really upped our game in terms of what we could do within the screen environment. So there wasn't really a big pushback from leadership. I think they saw it as a great opportunity. And again, we want to bring things to the table that are different in the market. And this was an opportunity for us.
So 10,000 screens across 300 stores is 30 screens per store. That's amazing in terms of, because one of the things Tom and I've talked about in terms of, and it's come up with like talking with Sarah Manzano of eMarketer about this, which a little bit of a chicken and the egg problem within store. And people have struggled, like you look at, they roll out a POC with 5 stores or 2 stores or what have you. And you're in 300 with 10,000. That's a huge footprint. As a percentage, whatever you're comfortable sharing, as a percentage of the RMM offering, is it like a third, half, a quarter? Like, is it a significant portion of your RMM business? And it therefore becomes kind of like the foundational layer that, in addition to the regional uniqueness, the in-store piece becomes another unique aspect of what you guys are doing.
I think the biggest thing that we have learned through the last 2 years is not to put screens as a standalone entity. It needs to be part of an omnichannel experience. I know a word everyone uses, but it truly is something that we have synced up on, and on every media plan we work through and on every business that we're trying to drive forward. We take a look at what's going to matter most to the brands and then what's going to matter to our customers. So we add in the in-store experience into every single plan we're working towards. So we don't play audio within our screens, but then we have audio as a component of our in-store experience. So we have seen a ton of success when you layer those two things together. And then we also see success when we add in Meta or some of our other channels to drive that awareness. Then they see a screen in store that has a product in it. They may even hear it, and then they're there to purchase it. So I do think that I don't like just selling a screen by itself. I don't think that's the way to do it. I think it is part of your whole journey and your process with your shoppers. We are lucky enough that we also get the benefit of being regional. We support a lot of local businesses, and there's a lot of important things that happen around the community. So we use about 50% of our screen coverage or inventory on those types of programs to be able to really highlight what's going on in the community, what Hy-Vee is able to do. And then we even work with local advertisers to be able to show their presence within our store. So outside of CPGs, we're also doing that.
So that part's interesting in terms of the content versus the ads that you have. Are you also doing, I know you used to have a program with the Seasons brand magazine. Now you have all of that online. are you putting those like recipes up on those screens as well?
We haven't quite hit the recipe game in screens. I think that has to be really driven by content and experience. And I think as screen technology advances, placement of screens, we started this 3 years ago. So we have screens on your checkout. Every single checkout aisle has a screen. We have screens above aisles in certain places. We have screens behind our meat counters and our bakery and different points. And then within our pharmacies, we have screens as well. I think recipes and opportunities for that really need to be a solution base that has the product right there that you can then build whatever meal that is. So I don't think we haven't quite done that yet, but I do think that's where things are headed, to be able to have the screens migrate more into the point of purchase items.
How are you pricing and packaging? You mentioned you're trying to do these as an omnichannel program. Is it, what metric are you using to price and package them? And then how do you look at reporting, attribution for that? I think those are huge $64,000 questions that the industry is asking, is how should we be pricing and how should we be tracking the campaigns? And by the way, your point of view is like, you guys are already doing it, so you probably have a bias, like the way however you're doing, you want the industry. But this is your chance to, I think, as other people are starting to build this out, if you want to see the rest of the world adopt it, I think this is a good chance to kind of like, if it is working, where does it go from here as well?
We are really lucky that we have the best analytics and data team within our group. So we are able to pull different metrics into what we're doing and how we're able to measure that. So it's not a perfect science. I think anyone that says it is not telling you the truth. But what we look at is, we look at the number of stores that we're putting screens in, we look at sales, and then we determine a holdout group, and then now we look at sales lift between the two. So it's not one-to-one necessarily, but it is a way, especially because we're regional, I can't do holdout stores.
Right.
I have to do the version that allows me to, the synthesized version where it allows me to pull the data out and look at those numbers. So we are able to do that and to show how that works. Pricing and how that works, we really focus on share of voice more than anything. So if you want, yes, we buy in CPM because that's how the world is right now. Maybe that will change eventually, but we want to give you a share of voice that has meaningful impact. So the hardest thing with having so many screens is we have so much inventory, and smattering it across the board may not get the results that we're looking for, but honing in on a certain zone or a certain moment or certain times of day and being able to control that share of voice is where we see the biggest influence and where we see things really taking off.
So what's interesting about that is we've heard other retailers talk about how you may not need to have the product in this space where the ad is showing, because they're okay. They see that same shopper every week. They could potentially drive a sale the next time they're coming. So do you guys think in those terms as well?
Points of rest are really important to us when we're thinking about the strategy of where the ads should be within the store. So what kind of product is it? And does it need a moment to think? So you're standing there waiting on getting your meats for the week, and you see something like a barbecue sauce behind you. Like, yeah, barbecue sauce isn't right there by the meat counter, but that makes a lot of sense, and I'm standing there for a minute. Or within the pharmacy area, you're standing in line. Those kind of moments, I think, are really important to understand, and it has a lot to do with all the shopper journey as well.
Now, on the pharmacy side of things, I went to the Point of Care Marketing Association event I think it was like a month ago, and I was hearing about how they were this kind of oasis where it didn't have to be the TV creative. It could be these longer form advertorial types of content where it's, maybe 20 minutes long because people are waiting there getting shots or, waiting for their prescriptions. Are you seeing those types of creative come into your world, or is it still more just sort of
we're
CPG?
still in like the 50, we really believe in the 15 seconds within that environment. Every once in a while, we'll let a 30 go, but we do try to focus on the 15s. We see the best impact that way. Long form content is just difficult to manage. So I haven't seen that within our environments. If you're in a doctor's office or you're sitting and waiting for a vaccine, you have more time to sit there. So that could be something in the future.
Actually, it's kind of I don't want to let it slide. Your point of how you figured out like formats, we want 15 seconds, how you program it, how you think about programming the day and the schedule for ads. There's a lot of experience there, and I think that's something that is missing across. And I'm being sincere. There's a more and more POCs, and people have not figured out how to do things at scale at most retailers. So your point of like, look, we know how to sell it, we know how to program it, we know what works in terms of formats. That puts you well ahead of the curve in terms of this. And so I think, you're going to get a lot of follow-ups of, I imagine, from your peers in the industry of, oh my gosh, please help me. I don't know what I'm doing as we roll out these tests. What percentage of the campaigns or involved in store now? Is it 100%? Is it 50%? What do you think in terms from an RMN standpoint your sell-through has been on in-store?
Well, if we say all of in-store, I would say we're close to about 25% of our campaigns have some kind of in-store component. Between in-store radio, the screens, we do sampling in-store, we do POS in stores, I would say 25 to 30%. Screens, I think, are closer to 10 to 15% if I had to take a guess. Just because, again, the adoption is a little bit tricky. I believe we have it figured out, and I'm happy to share that with any brand that's looking for that information. But, the biggest question is always going to be, were they going to buy it anyway? Did they actually see the screen? Those are the never-ending questions that we need more campaigns. We need more brands willing to invest and test and learn to be able to really continue to understand those kinds of metrics too. Because just because I say today, this is what we figured out and what we know, tomorrow could be a different day
for sure.
We have new data. So I think continuing to have brands willing to invest and test and work with us and partner with us. And then I think the measurement continues to just be that, do you put beacons in?
Right.
Do you, all of that? You just have to figure out where is the juice worth the squeeze on some of that. At the end of the day, we're a grocery store. We're selling products that consumers see every single week. What is your ultimate goal with screens and in-store? And I think it is to give that customer a great experience and be able to have the product they're looking for and drive that forward.
Yeah, we had Marlo Nickel from Grocery TV on about a year ago, and he sort of educated us on how, he went too far and agencies weren't asking for that. So I guess the follow-up question there is, what are they asking for? What are the agencies and the brands asking for? What are you learning from these big brands? We've been talking about edge cases of pharma and local brands. What are the big CPGs talking to you about?
Yeah, they want iROAS. I think that's what they want on every single campaign in every single way. They want to understand the audiences. So one question I got asked this last week where it actually made me pause and think is, well, are you able to target with the screens to the consumer? And I sat there and I thought, even if I could do that, I don't know if we want that either. So it was I'm sure there is some technology that could figure it out, but that's a big leap and it makes that kind of invasiveness within a store. You have to be careful about. I would rather stick to the geo, the product, the solution to the shopper than, hey, change the screen based on who, a man classify it than a woman. I just don't know.
It's a great discussion point. I think we've talked about that as a vision for what in-store could be, right? Through beacons or phones or other tracking. And I think there's some, potential privacy issues that could bring that up. But at the same point in time, if you think about it from a CPG standpoint, Tom, to your point, which I think this is a great topic to kind of continue to pull the string on, is it best as a top of funnel type format, right? Think of TV ads, video ads, what have you. And in those situations, the broader the reach, the better, right? You want to get in as many eyeballs as possible. It's sampling. It's how do it's not conversion marketing at that point. It's demand generation. And so you would think you can say yes, but what about your top of funnel? And this is a great format to your point about sampling. Think about what else you do in store. You do sampling. You're doing product discovery. People think of this has a role that's really important, and you should have creatives and parts of your campaigns. You as an ex-agency person know this. Let's focus on those aspects of what you're trying to do, right? Product. Do you see a lot of interest from product launches then? And where Or is it, or even like big holiday events? Like you think about Super Bowl for soda and other, you would think like Pepsi and
Yeah.
Coke would be dying to buy out whatever you have during those big windows too.
Those are definitely big opportunities for us. Obviously, with FIFA and America 250 coming
Right.
into play, we're doing huge initiatives, and we have lots of brands that are going to be showcasing their new products. They have things specific to product launches. So, another big thing that we do a lot of is what we call our multi-brand campaigns. So, one of our best producing campaigns that we've had is a frozen food month. Campaign, and we featured different products that are in the freezer section, and that was because like I think it's January or February is the biggest frozen, like people buy a lot of frozen
Really?
food,
That's it.
That's weird.
Fascinating. I wouldn't have
which
known
is
that.
fascinating. So we did a big campaign. We saw a huge lift. ROAS was $25 across the campaign, so it was a pretty impressive
Is there
campaign.
like a psychology for that? Is it like frozen food's easier? Like you're not going out. Like I don't
Yeah,
even
I
understand
don't
that.
know. It's just like
Okay.
there's a month that's frozen food month because it's
All
when
right.
the consumers are. There's a month for everything, you name it.
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's true.
and we also ran
Well,
like
like
Super Bowl, like that was a big
Right.
one too. And we had a bunch
yeah,
of different brands.
I've seen a ton of FIFA gear. I haven't seen a lot of collabs yet, but I have seen like I was just in CVS with my daughter, and there was M&M's like Baker's collection. So it was like peanut plus cinnamon, and then like cherry plus velvet cake or something. And I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that I could just totally walk by, even on an end cap, and not notice unless there was some sort of sight, sound, emotion creative there. So I can imagine that anything on the line extensions, the product launches, as Todd was saying, this is what it does best, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The other part of it is a lot of people, when they get excited about in store, they start to apply ad tech thinking. But this happened even just with onsite. So initially, onsite, everybody's like, "Oh, can we do iROAS on onsite?" And it's like, you don't like you're already super low funnel. What's the point? So yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's the other thing that we've talked a lot about is how RMNs will look and feel more and more like publishers over time.
Hmm.
And you're talking about the promotions and Frozen Food Month, and as putting my old online publishing hat on, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my editorial calendar, come back. And you talking like that, it's like, and even the way you're talking about audience, the way you're talking about different formats, the way you're talking about scheduling, I, I feel like I'm talking to a publisher. And I mean that in a
Yeah,
really
drive
good,
periods are
positive
big.
way,
Yeah,
that it's if you were, and I still think even in the agency world that you came from, there's still this bias that RMNs are really just another form of shopper marketing versus no, it's a new publishing channel. It is really more, you should all be thinking about it as just as you would look at online publishers, you should be looking at retail media the same way and not thinking of it as shopper marketing instead. Obviously there's overlap and what have you, but I think that's
yeah.
sort of what's interesting is if I didn't know you were from an R&M, I would think, oh, this is just an editorial calendar conversation.
Yeah, and I think a big reason and a big shift for me coming into this role is actually the linkage between merchandising and retail media. And so we truly have built an incredible partnership. I'm not just lip service that I hear every other RMN talking about. I actually texted my head of merch twice today on just different programs that we're bringing into the table. We meet monthly. We have a big partnership. We go into all of our JBPs together. We build out calendars together because we believe in like to build a proper success for our brands, which ultimately gives success to our shoppers, is you start with the lowest cost of goods so that we're able to deliver that to our customer. We layer on promotions and merchandising, and then you have Red Media to amplify what's happening. So our goal is not to run any of those things without the other. And so that's how we come together. So very much like your old school content calendar in just a new innovative way that's actually more old school but new school. We're kind of in the middle.
Well, speaking of old school, is there less of a reliance within the retail media programs on promotion? Because I remember when we were starting this out, it was like, well, onsite's going to be the always on thing, and then iROAS is going to come from offsite, and we're going to drive, sort of attention to promotions that were happening on the drive period calendar. Does the screen network actually remove some of the stress around promoting everything all the time?
Yes, for sure. And I think we've become super, super clear on the direction that we're going to go and how we want it to appear. And that is, again, a big focus of the merchandising and RedMedia teams working together hand in hand. So 100%.
So where do you see all of this going in the next couple of years for RedMedia?
I mean, obviously, you can't have a discussion without AI. I think eventually the agentic shopping is going to become a big play. How we maximize that, how we change up our websites to drive things within AI. So I do see that being the big focus for the next 5 years. But I do think, it comes back for me to just, keeping the scorecards the same to move a brand forward within a retail environment means you have to have all those people working together. So we do have to have merchandising, the media, the website, e-commerce. Like we all have to be driving towards the same goals. And I think that is something that we do really well here. So I do see that continuing. I think in-store experiences are also going to be a big driver. We do a big kids club program every month. We get brands to help us sponsor those to, again, bring that kind of joy back to the shopping experience. And that's something a regional grocer can do that I don't know. I mean, I think we do cookouts every weekend, and we bring a whole different level to what we're doing at Hy-Vee, which does set us apart from some of those other retailers in the industry that they have a playbook. They hand you the playbook as a brand. You got to fit in their components, but we take the approach of you know your brand better than anybody. How can we put more of your brand in our shoppers' carts, which then amplifies everything else for us? So we want to make sure that we are building custom programs. And so it does turn into an issue with scale sometimes, but I think that's where we look for partners that, will work with us. That was a really long-winded answer.
That's okay.
We've talked a lot about in-store, in real life, as it's just becomes a unique aspect of retailers. And what's interesting, the stat that gets shared over and over again, is the number of people shopping in store, despite the rise of e-commerce, has not declined.
Right.
And as a result, it is something that will continue to be special. People are very interested in real life experiences, and it's almost becoming more of a premium as a result of that. And so to your point of being a core part of your business makes a ton of sense, and I think will be a key rallying point for retail media. Like it's just this connection point. Yes, you can do on-site. Yes, you can do off-site. But this in-store piece is going to be so incredibly valuable to brands. You'll always be a part of the evolving media landscape.
Yep.
I mean, what are you going to do with all the extra time after ChatGPT has done all your work? So
they'll still need us.
Great. Well, we're really excited having you on the podcast. Thank you. And please keep us abreast of what's going on with RedMedia.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.